As you may have noticed, my favorite element of design is line. Line is responsible for visual flow in an arrangement. So many of my techniques and mechanics involve the use of linear components. Today, I'd like to share how I build a structure inspired by Art Nouveau, ready for flooring. Art Nouveau motifs typically involves a series of sinuous curving lines inspired by the plant world. Building a decorative armature, structure, or trellis first provides sensuous lines as supporting mechanics for your design. With use of this type of structure as a foundation, you will have already introduced a beautiful Art Nouveau motif to which you add just enough flowers to complete the open form design. This style of design brings importance to the negative space created to be as important as the space occupied by the flowers. So to get started, let me introduce you to the components that you'll need to get this project started. So what we want first is a Medellino extender, just one of them, and it has a combination of Medellino wire and then wrapped with yarn. We have also the Medellino and wire vine, which is much thinner. It has just one Medellino and it's with the aluminum wire and extra metallic wire involved. But the third item that we haven't discussed yet, or I have not shown yet, is basically the wire vine. And what it is really combination of wires that's wrapped with floral tape. Light green is my preferred color. And then, or it can be also added with the yarn so that you can have that same kind of yarn finish with the other two items in this listing of materials. So to get started with that particular item, the third item, the wire vine, it really is structured just like this. So it has actually the number 24 gauge wire, two of them that seamed in the middle, with also a shorter piece of green bind wire, so that then it sort of thins down a little bit, and then to the core of the aluminum wire in the middle. And it really doesn't matter what color any of these items are because it gets all taped up with floral tape. So I'm just going to finish that off so that you can see how this piece gets completed. So I'm just finishing off the final yarn wrapping over that green floor taped piece that I started just minutes ago. And I'm just wrapping it up here to finish it. And I'm just gonna wrap with a little bit of bullion to just tighten up that final seam. And I'm just gonna do that right now. Just cut a little piece and just use that to sort of finish it off so that it takes that little fuzz of the yarn away. So this is what I have. And so this completes the component, the third component that I'm talking about that will give us a beautiful construction of the motif, Art Nouveau motif. So next what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use a basic container. It's a frosted cylinder, not terribly big, because I'm going to build something that's gonna make it easy for me to flower afterwards, something very, very simple. So I'm gonna take the Medellino extender, and I'm just gonna stretch it out and bring it down into the container so that it goes right to the bottom. And then I'm going to now take the green bind wire and I'm gonna have it cut into short pieces. That's just a perfect length for this. So we're gonna do that. And then with this, I am going to tie this I'm gonna take this to the edge on both sides and then bend it over. So there's that, and bend it over so that it kind of fits the width of that container really, really nicely. I'm gonna take that bind wire and wrap it really nice and tight. I'm not gonna actually cut the ends off of this bind wire till a little bit later on, but this way it fits in there really nice and snug side to side. And then I'm gonna bring this up because this is gonna start to create the curvilinear kind of a feel of the typical Art Nouveau kind of a feel, and that kind of the whiplash effect, that kind of a look that I've got going on right there. This one here might also have a little bit of that whiplash effect as well. So this is how I'm gonna start. So I'm gonna actually create it in 2D first. And then I'm gonna kind of strengthen that with another long piece of Middlino. This is Middlino and wire vine. So it has, again, the aluminum wire in there, and I'm going to actually tuck this in so that it attaches to this on one side. Let's see, we're gonna do this one side and the other, so that it actually straddles over or through to either side of. We're still building in 2D though. So what we're gonna do is actually bring this down a little bit so that it doesn't have to go all the way necessarily to the end, because now we're gonna start building out this motif. So I'm gonna just randomly tie in different spots so that it starts to add a little bit more strength to what I've got already going on. So I was able to complete the 2D version of the rendering of the Art Nouveau, these sort of sexy, sinuous curves. And you can see how they sort of coordinate with each other, flows together in the undulating lines with that typical whiplash effects on the tips. And so with those two components, I was able to create the 2D effect of it. So you can see from the side that it's basically very thin, and it's just to give you the visual of the lines working together in 2D. And so now with the additional component of the vine wire, I am going to add the 3D to dimensionalize this, because after all, our flowers are going to be designed in 3D. So I'm going to construct this to go more into a 3D formation. So I'm going to just tuck that in. And I'm going to now start to develop the 3D aspect of this design structure. So basically, I finished adding the 3-wire vine. And so then I was able to get a much more finer sinuous flow, and you can see these beautiful whiplash effects, repetition of some of that. And if you look at it sort of front on, and if you can imagine as a 2D, that it really is like some of the graphic styling that you often see in that Art Nouveau, beautiful sketches and posters and paintings. And so that's basically what it is, but we've added that extra dimensionality so that it has a little bit more width, so that we can start adding something like the jasmine vine and just sort of tuck it into spots so that it sort of rests into an area and sort of wind it through to kind of make it flow through as if it's growing. It kind of catches into those spots. I'm just going to cut that little piece off, so that you have that. And then I have a nice long piece off of my jasmine plant that I'm going to then add to maybe to the back side a little bit, and let this sort of flow through all of this the structure and the different sort of spaces that I've created, that it can then flow through so that it naturally trellises through this structure. I think that's the whole idea, is that it now has a trellis into which all of these can vine through, so that it actually stays in place rather than allow the vine to be just loose and not very structured. So this gives it an attach point. So I'm going to go ahead and use the vine wire to attach this piece right here so it stays right in there, so that it's really acting as a beautiful trellis right there. And I'm just going to sneak that back in there. And this particular piece, this side shoot, sort of flowing through on this side, it just gives it a trellis for this to sort of flow through really naturally, so that it starts to just create this beautiful fluid movement that the Art Nouveau is known for. And so by building this structure, what it gives you is an opportunity for material to flow through. Things like vines that are without any kind of support, it's just sort of floppy. It gives it body, and it gives you opportunity to go upwards and around and also downward. So it gives you a very fluid curvilinear design and an open form, because you can see through it and see a lot of beautiful negative spaces that are created with the vine. And of course, you can then flower it with whatever you like, something unusual, something stunning, but you don't need to fill it and cover this whole thing with flowers. You just need to flower it in such a way so that you can appreciate the open spaces. If garden style of designing has a direction to move forward, transitioning to Art Nouveau styling can be fun. Study curvilinear open forms, opening up the heavy clustering of flowers to a more airy and transparent use of space can be a great direction to explore. Create an art-inspired structure, which can be reused multiple times, can be reshaped to change its character and ability. You can have so much fun with it as a sustainable mechanic. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in more video tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in learning more about Art Nouveau inspired design, consider joining my Patreon page. I'll be teaching 2 virtual workshops about it starting this Saturday, April the 17th. To find out more, visit patreon.com/Hitomi Gilliam.